Hey everybody, Brian Zane here with my NXT review for June 8th, 2021. It's the final episode before Takeover in your house this Sunday, so all guns blazing here as we're doing the big go-home show. Let's begin with this match with Austin Theory and Oney Lorcan. This match happened, or it came about, from a scuffle between the two of them last week, and then we also see some footage from earlier in the day where The Way and members of Pete's Pack start brawling in like the lobby area. By the way, Pat's Pack has now become Pete's Pack. I forgot if I mentioned that earlier. It's a physical match with these guys. Before the break, we see Pete Dunne showing up at ringside. Then at the end of the break, Johnny Gargano shows up, and so these guys are hanging out at ringside for this match. Theory really impressed me with this one. Great rolling blockbuster out of nowhere by him. Also a really cool seated springboard Spanish fly. I'd never seen that kind of variation before. Very impressive. In the end, Dunne and Gargano are brawling on the outside, and Theory's very distracted by that, and Lorcan capitalizes, hits his half Nelson slam finisher to win the match. I thought it was a pretty good opener. We get a promo package from LA Knight reporting from his rented palatial estate, talking about how he's going to carry on the $1 Million Legacy, the MDL for shorthand. He's surrounded by ladies in a hot tub, talking about how he's going to beat up Cameron Grimes at Takeover and everything, then speeds off in his sweet-looking Mercedes-Benz. All I could think for watching this one was, is Cameron Grimes going to have a rebuttal? I sure hope so. Then we see Doc Hendricks, reporting with the Slam Jam update for NXT TakeOver, giving the rundown of the card in that sweet radio voice he did so much in the 90s. He still's got the voice. I gotta give him props for that. We see Legado Del Phantasma in the ring, and Santos Escobar's got some words for Bronson Reed for flattening him last week. Reed interrupts and then shows the clip from last week where he just squishes him against the barricade over and over and over again to get at the baddies. And so finally, Santos tells him to come to the ring, and he says, okay, goes to the ring. MSK, the tag team champions, then show up to even the odds. Then Santos makes a challenge to Bronson and MSK for a six-man tag match at TakeOver where all the belts are on the line. Winner take all, and both sides agree to it. They show the squishing replay a few more times, and then we see Hit Row appear. Isaiah Swerve Scott's coming out for his match, and we get some jaw-jacking and some stare-downs between all three groups and everything. I like the promo here. I thought it was entertaining and a good setup, I think. The way they've been building this matchup has been pretty cool. Like, it feels just kind of like it feels kind of organic, the way that MSK and Reed have been kind of teaming alongside each other to take on Santos and Wild and Mendoza, so should be a pretty good match. So Swerve has his match now with Killian Dain. This all stems from last week when Swerve and Drake Maverick had a confrontation in the parking lot and Dain stood up for his partner. I like this match here, some good back and forth. In the end, though, we see Ashante the Adonis try to get involved. Drake Maverick attacks him, then Top Dollar, the big heavy for Hit Row, attacking Drake Maverick, and Killian sees all of this. He turns around and Swerve attacks, hits him with a big-ass kick in the corner to win the match. So a good win for Swerve, but that's now 2 matches so far in this night out of 2 matches on this show, which end with the heel getting over after a big distraction on the outside. So, NXT's favorite musician, Poppy, has now arrived at the CWC, but Candice LeRae is very upset by that, thinks that Poppy's taken up too much attention. Meanwhile, Indy Hartwell, apropos of nothing, is like, do you remember when Dexter Lumis listened to my headphones? I think he still likes me, and runs off. Like, you had 7 days to bring that up in conversation. Why all of a sudden right now? Then we get the Cameron Grimes rebuttal. I love it. I knew it was going to happen here. It's very similar vein to the LA Knight promo from earlier. Cameron is in his own rented palatial estate with his own ladies, and it's much more goofy here. Both are pretty silly in the grand scheme of things, but this one definitely leans into the comedy aspect. You got Cameron cutting this promo, and like his face is framed in between like a pair of legs from this lady at the deck of the pool. He's struggling to enjoy a cigar and some bourbon. He and this lady like trade massage time, then he peels off in his Rolls Royce. I liked both these segments. I thought they were both very entertaining, capturing both their characters pretty well, and it's kept me interested in the match, but we're not done with the build for this match yet. Mercedes Martinez is supposed to be taking on Amari Miller up next, but Xia Li jumps Mercedes in her entrance on the stage, but Mercedes fights back and throws Xia over the barricade. She gets in the ring, she's selling, but she still wants the match to happen, and she destroys Miller within seconds, like 2 or 3 moves. So she wins pretty emphatically. She yells into the camera that Xia Li messed with the wrong one. I did like the little fire from Mercedes here as they're building to that match for TakeOver. Breezango's back. They're interviewed backstage, and they're asked about Walter's message to Eichner and Bartel last last week in that hype package where he told them to take Breezango out. Breezango doing their usual shtick where they kind of make fun of some of the names and everything. They get some of the names wrong. And then it all ties back to Breeze saying, well, hey, we're just going to make Walter disappointed again when we beat Aichner and Bartel once again. And then we get a little hype package for the Kaylee Ray Meiko Satomura match for NXT UK for the Women's Championship. And then we see Poppy, the guest of honor, having a very organic, natural conversation backstage with Triple H and Willie Reegs. And oh, the new EP dropped with a push of a button. Great, I'm glad we had this conversation. Then we see Dexter Lumis walk in and he presents Poppy with this drawing of her that he did, I should say. She thanks him with a hug, and as soon as that happens, it's a very long, awkward hug too. As this happens, camera pans over to see Indy Hartwell walking in just as this happens, and she's disgusted by what she sees. Oh, Dexter, how could you? Ugh, this big grunt she makes as she storms off. And then Regal and Triple H just make faces for what feels like an eternity. That was really worth it. It's time for Ted DiBiase's Priceless announcement. Before we see that, though, we see Cameron Grimes and LA Knight roll up to the building in their respective vehicles, looking like a couple of ketchup and mustard bottles the way they're dressed tonight. And Ted DiBiase, the bottle of Dijon, in the ring, and he brings the two of them out. He announces it's going to be a ladder match happening at TakeOver. This very dramatic lowering of the golden ladder. The way that's all like set up in the hydraulics, where it's like comes down at an angle like that instead of straight down. I like that movement they had there. So LA Knight, he basically calls Cameron a hillbilly, and he's going to beat him up, and Grimes accepts he's a hillbilly, and it's not about the money. A very fiery babyface promo from Grimes here. It's not about the money, he says. It's all about what happens in this ring. Then Grimes goes to climb the ladder symbolically and goes, hey, by the way, what are we fighting for in this ladder match? And then DiBiase summons the $1 Million Championship, and then all three of them just kind of laugh at each other as this segment ends. So now we know this is not just for some vague MDL, $1 Million Legacy. This is for the MDC, the $1 Million Championship. Like I said, I've been liking the build here. I like this segment. I like the fire in Cameron's promo here. The $1 Million belt reveal felt like you could kind of see it from a mile away. Like the moment you see DiBiase in the ring, he's not doing a good job hiding the table behind him. And when you see that cocktail table like in the ring, it's always to present a belt. So yeah, I could see from a mile away the $1 Million belt was going to be involved in this. I'll talk about that and the significance of that in my predictions at the end of this video. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this segment, and just the thread of Grimes and Knight and now DiBiase tying it all together, it was pretty well done. We see a big backstage scrap happening with Karrion Kross and Kyle O'Reilly while security and Willie Reegs tries to break it up. We then see Everrise announcing they're going to be hosting the pre-show for TakeOver in Your House on Sunday. Then it's time for GYV to take on August Grey and Ikemen Jiro, who have been making some waves as a team on 205 Live. Jiro's gimmick right now is that he wrestles while wearing this jacket of his, and Wade Barrett on commentary with an excellent observation. If he likes the jacket so much, why does he wrestle in it? As the match goes on, we see Ciampa and Thatcher show up to the ringside area, have a sit. It distracts GYV for a little bit, but they recover from the setback. It's a ticket to mayhem on Grey to win the match. Then afterward, Gibson on the microphone saying, we're done with you guys. We said we're done with you already. We beat you once before. And then Ciampa saying, if you guys want a shot at the tag titles, you gotta go through us first. Gibson and Drake then challenge them to a tornado tag team match for next week. And then the match is presumably accepted because the good guys run in and they storm the ring and the baddies leave. That should be a pretty good match. If this is the blow-off, I'm expecting some big things happening here. We got a short little video of Bobby Fish training on a punching bag, and he says he's not forgotten about what Oni Lorcan has done to him 2 weeks ago, attacking his arm. And then we see Candice LeRae making her way to the ring. She's got a bone to pick with Poppy, and she wants to call her out and actually have a fight with her in the parking lot. Poppy then emerges and says, I don't wrestle, but I know someone who does. It's only Io Shirai, the former women's champion, making her return to TV, the first time since I think it was the NXT after the TakeOver where she lost the belt to Gonzalez. So she shows up and she storms the ring, beats up Candice, and then Io and Poppy have a hug. And look, I couldn't care less about Poppy being part of this show. It means nothing to me, but it was cool to see Io make her return after being gone for about a month. But what more is there to do with her and Candice? Unless it's going to be kind of a one-off thing where Io gets her, a win, first match back or whatever, beats Candice and we're done. That seems fine, I guess, but I mean, if they're going to turn it into a feud, I feel like, I don't think there's much more to milk from this, because they already kind of ran the gamut in the before time when, they they kind of traded off who was a face and who was a heel. So, you know, unless it's a one and done, it's like, this matchup, like, I don't really know. Maybe it's just going to be an easy transition for Io to get back into the swing of things. Doc Hendricks is back with the Slam Jam update with some minor revisions in case you missed the first time. And then it's time to see Dakota Kai taking on Ember Moon. I like this match here. A great moment just before break where Dakota spins Ember around in the corner so her head hits the ring post. And near the end, you've got this moment here where Ember is like fighting back with big spirit here. She beats up Raquel on the outside, dives on both she and Kai. Ember goes for an eclipse, but then Gonzalez just beats her up and gets the match thrown out on a DQ. Ember is about to get power bombed, but she counters with an eclipse, hits another proper eclipse on Raquel, and so she holds the title up. She's very standing tall here. I thought the match ending the way it did was a bit of a disappointment after the match we had seen leading up to it, but I like the moment of Ember getting that heat back and standing tall and showing she's got some fire and everything. I mean, it's a big red flag. She's not going to win on Sunday, but at least it was a cool moment for Ember after what we saw there in the match. We had a grainy Karrion Kross promo backstage where he tells his opponent to take over to show the world what they can really do. We come back from commercial break and we go to the fatal five-way face-off already in progress. Regal is confronting Kross in the ring, saying he doesn't like the cut of Karrion's jib. This is not happening now, but like, when is it supposed to happen? Because they've been promoting this segment all night, so I don't know when you expect the thing's going to happen, William. Kyle O'Reilly shows up first and he says that Karrion is compensating because he's insecure. Then Johnny Gargano shows up from the other side of the arena, stands on the announce table. He tells Karrion, you know, you're no Johnny Gargano, you're no Johnny Takeover, and by the way, you're accident prone. Pete Dunne interrupts and says, I've had enough of this, I want to fight. And then we see Adam Cole showing up on the big screen. He's too big time to be dealing with this riffraff in person because he's already beaten them all up and he's already just verbally eviscerated Karrion Kross last week and the champ did nothing about it. So we'll see you at the matches on Sunday. Kyle O'Reilly is the first one to get physical. He slaps Karrion Kross and they all has fight. All four guys are fighting each other. In the end, Karrion stands tall, or does he? Because then Adam Cole shows up in person to beat up Karrion. Then he holds up the championship and that's how we fade to black, how we end the show. You know, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from this segment. It just felt like, okay, this is a chance to show everybody to remind everyone they exist and have one last little fracas to build to take over and everything. I'm just not interested in this matchup, to be totally honest. And if this segment did something for you to help pique your interest, then good on you, but did nothing for me, unfortunately. My grade for NXT this week is a C. I think that there was some good build for TakeOver, especially in the undercard. I liked how the undercard was built up and especially how the stakes were raised in a couple of those matches. But except for the main event, that's the only one I didn't really care about with the build of this one for the reasons I have already mentioned. Also, I think there were a couple of just too many screwy finishes on this show. 2 matches in a row where the loser loses because there's shenanigans on the outside, and then there's the DQ finish in Moon and Kai, as good of a match as that was, and a good of a moment we saw after the DQ, just the fact that we have this screwy finish. And again, Poppy being involved, you know, take it or leave it, does nothing for me. And now it's time for my predictions for this Sunday's TakeOver in Your House event. I can only hope to see more Todd Pettengill this time around. Let's begin with the 6-man tag match. Winner takes all as Bronson Reed and MSK defend the North American and tag titles respectively against Legado Del Phantasma. My pick for this match is going to be Bronson and MSK. I think right now their respective reigns, especially Bronson's, are a bit too short right now for him to be cut off with the bad guys winning in this one. I don't think LDF need the belts right now, and considering they seem to be strongly indicating that Swerve is going to be challenging for the North American Championship next, it makes more sense to me for him to get the belt from Bronson than from a fellow heel in Santos Escobar. Raquel Gonzalez defends the NXT Women's Championship against Ember Moon. My pick for this match is going to be Gonzalez. No way they're taking the belt off her this early in the game. She has a lot left to give for her reign, in my opinion, and especially if they're going to slowly build towards something between her and Kai. Purely speculative, but I mean, that's kind of the way these always tend to go. So yeah, that's kind of my take on that. It's going to be a good match. I think Ember's going to be a great opponent for Raquel, but I think they're just kind of like biding time until Ember can get back with Shotzi Blackheart once she returns. It's the only match on the card that's not for a championship. You have Xia Li taking on Mercedes Martinez on Sunday. My pick for this one is going to be Xia Li. I have said many times on this channel and reviewing NXT how much I've enjoyed the Xia Li story arc in the last several months, how she's been kind of come back from this jobber character to being built this total badass, mysterious warrior with Tian Sha and Mei Ying and all that stuff and Boa and whatnot. I think that Mercedes appears to be another victim of Xia as she makes her way up through the ranks. Mercedes is kind of in that rarefied position because of her veteran status. She doesn't need a championship, doesn't need to win like a whole bunch of matches, but like she can be a good hand and a good opponent and make people look good, and that's, I think, what her role is going to be on Sunday. So yeah, it should be a very interesting match. I wonder if, you know, the more mysterious stuff and if Mei Ying's gonna blow smoke in Mercedes' face or something like that, but either way, Xia Li's got this one won. Ladder match for the $1 Million Championship. They're bringing it back, baby. Cameron Grimes versus Los Angeles Knight. This is a tough one for me to pick because I honestly don't know how either man can benefit from having this championship. I think the $1 Million title, it's a good symbol, but really it seems so synonymous with DiBiase historically that putting it on anyone else historically has like never really worked out. So that being said, I'm gonna go with Cameron Grimes. So I think maybe his character is better suited for the championship. I think they could have more fun with Grimes as a champ. I think it can help further propel his babyface status as of right now, which I said a couple of weeks ago kind of came out of left field for me when it happened. And then okay, we're having this now, but I'm all for it after what we saw, especially on this week. So I'm gonna shot in the dark here, say Grimes wins. And in your main event, it's a fatal 5-way for the NXT Championship as Karrion Kross defends against Pete Dunne, Johnny Gargano, Cool Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Cole. My pick for this one is going to be Kross retaining the championship. This whole match feels like it was kind of thrown together. It just feels like a way to delay any real significant storytelling or storyline progression with most of the people here. It feels like half this field is just waiting for something else to do in terms of their character and their story arcs. I had no real interest in this match. I've made it very clear at this point. It's going to be fine. It'll be very athletic and dramatic and fun in its own way, but this match is not the one I'm looking forward to the most on this card. And it's just like, yeah, it feels like after this show, then we can see some things branching off into different storylines. And this match seems to be the catalyst for that. But the match itself, it just feels like it's going to be an easy win for Kross. But what did you think of NXT this week, folks? And how do you think Takeover is going to go? What are your picks for the show on Sunday? I look forward to hearing your responses in the comment section below. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.